Welcome to another episode of the Career Talks podcast. Each and every week, I bring you amazing guests that will provide you with actionable advice for your career and life. Definitely excited about tonight. You've seen the topic, you've seen the flyer, you've seen the amazing young lady I have on tonight. And so if you need to get your pen and pad ready, take tremendous notes, watch the replay, record the replay, download the replay, because this is needed in this current career economy. But before we get started, let's make sure to subscribe to the channel, support iPhone, not iPhone, I'm going to say Apple, but through your iPhone, wherever you want to do it, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. So we can continue to provide, job seekers with incredible advice throughout this network. So let's not belabor the guest. So she's an amazing career coach. She's been doing it for a while. Super excited. We've been networked, or should I say connected on LinkedIn for a while. This is our first meeting, which is crazy. We've been connected, know the same people. We were just chatting, but I can't wait to hear all the jewels she is about to drop. Miss Ann Chinduso. How are you?
Hi, Orlando. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. I want to make sure I say that to every guest, because you just never know. Some folks be like, I don't know if I want to attach myself to certain people. It can be like that. So I appreciate your time and the expertise you're going to bring tonight. So super cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. I'm so excited to be here, and I know this is a topic that's really hot right now. Everyone wants to feel like they're producing something in their job search, and it's been a really tough market lately.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, share with the folks a little bit more about you, your background, and your expertise.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, my name's Ann. I am a career coach and leadership coach. I work with professionals who I specialize kind of mid-career level, and folks who are either looking to pivot or they just want to get to that next level of growth in their career. And I like to say that I help them advance their career, but also command premium pay, because you need to know your worth, right? So I've been doing that for about, I think we're coming on 5 years now. And previously to that, I worked in integrated communications for 16 years, helping executives and celebrities and all sorts of stuff on public relations. So I have a big background in branding, which kind of translates into the career world where you're trying to brand yourself for your next position.
Love it. Yeah. So definitely the fact that you said that throughout the conversation, it's probably part of it, but if not, let's weave in some of that branding background that you use for your client base, because I'm sure you definitely say, hey, let's tweak a bit here. Let's try this.
Sure.
So we were just talking offline about the market, or should I say the topic, and why it's so needed for the market. And so share your perspective currently of what you're seeing, whether that's through because you're tapped in, but also from your client base perspective. What are they telling you the job search landscape, and how they the hurdles they're trying to get over?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, this has been the most difficult job search market, hands down, and that I've ever seen throughout my career, both as an employee and then, through the career coaching as well. And I say that because it's taking people, the things, the rules, the things that worked before, scan job boards, put your resume out there, apply. You can expect to have some reasonable amounts of responses, interview, get a job. That's not working anymore. And it's taking longer than ever too, right? So even if you are doing all these extra things and looking at the new rules, which we'll talk about, but it's still taking longer. And I think it's like the time to hire date is the highest it's ever been. I think they say it's an average of 45 days. With my clients who are kind of in that mid to upper career level, it's obviously much longer. It always has been longer simply because of supply and demand when you have fewer roles that are higher. But it's just the process itself is extending, and it's burning people out. When you're going on 6+ interviews and then getting ghosted. When you're putting out, I have clients come to me and they said, I've put out hundreds of applications and I'll get 3 responses or 1 interview. So that's what I mean by those rules have changed.
Now, I'm not sure if you have any insight or data is what's causing this. Is it the scare in the tech space, a year or so ago that trickled down with the continuous layoffs? Is it the interest rates? Is like what is causing such a dismantling of the market to where companies are, again, having these massive layoffs everywhere for the most part, but still hiring, right? There's still opportunities for sure. And we're seeing a longer lead time to getting qualified folks hired.
Yeah. So I think it's like this perfect storm that's come together because the market's always been cyclical, right? Where you have, whether it's an employer's market or then it's an employee's market. And after COVID, it definitely was for a while there, it was the employees market. You saw people leaving. We had the great resignation. And now we've kind of flipped and that pendulum swing the other way, but very quickly. So in terms of why, I think there's, 5 big factors. There's probably a lot more. First, you talked about layoffs, right? So when you have more competition, you have the increased competition because you have more people who unfortunately are out of work seeking. So that's just making it harder to stand out. The second, I think you kind of touched on this with the tech. And I think AI is playing a very big role in this in a couple of different ways. So one would be AI from the employee standpoint, the candidate. There's all these new auto apply tools. One's called auto apply, one's lazy apply, all of these AI tools that you put your resume up and then you say what you're looking for, set your parameters, and it just applies for you while you sleep, which is great in theory, right? It's awesome in theory. It's a numbers game. You just have to put it all out there. But what it's doing on the back end of it is it's flooding the market. So hiring managers, so in the work that I do with my leadership coaching, the folks that are hiring, they're like, we're getting 1,000 applications for one position, and maybe only 15 of those are qualified. But it takes all that extra time to kind of go through all of those, I'm going to call them fake applications because they're not necessarily qualified. On the other side of it is AI for the company's standpoint. Whole departments are getting cut. And so when you have that happen, and because the companies are leaning on AI tools, and they're like, oh, we can use this to recruit instead. But without the human touch, so now you have AI talking to AI, and it's it's wonderful for what it can do, but when you have that happening, then it's like, oh wow, a perfect storm and a mess. I think the other part, tip 4 here would be the ghosting phenomenon. So it's become much more prevalent and acceptable to just ghost. So when you have people who are ghosting, it's prolonging those hiring timelines because people are waiting, and on both sides, the candidate and the employer.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was going to say it's funny you said the on both sides, because I was at an event a few weeks ago, and an individual shared her experience with a recruiter. This was locally here in Florida, and she said, "Yep, recruiter called me, had a great conversation, talked about the opportunity, but once she went in to meet with, it was an agency recruiter." To meet with the person, they said, "Oh no, the position is not available." And she was just like, "What do you mean? We talked about this in the initial call, and you shared, went back and forth, and you were excited, you seemed excited, I was excited, and then I'm here and you're telling me it's not an open position. What was the point of that?" So just a little word to the wise: if the recruiters are out there doing that, please don't do that. That's not a good look. And even if it's from a staffing firm, which traditionally their model, my background started in agency, but that's one of the key metrics that they have to do: get bodies in the door to say, okay, I met with 25 candidates this week. So don't bait these candidates into a conversation to meet your quota or to come in the door. You say one thing on the phone, and then in person it's not real. So just something. But the ghosting in that sense is like he ghosted the opportunity, or falsified the
job.
opportunity. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
he pulled the wool. It was just like that's not a good look at all. Anytime. But go
Oh,
ahead. I'm sorry. Just wanted to share that.
no, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's so frustrating. Yeah, when you get ghosted, whether it's a ghost job that doesn't even exist and they're just kind
Yeah.
of trying to fill the talent pipeline, if you're a little more forthcoming about that, that's fine. People want to do informational interviews too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the fifth part now, because of all of that, is then the companies, when you're in an employer market, they can take their time. So they have a little higher hiring standards now, and they're saying, okay, we're gonna try to get the perfect candidate. And I think it's become a problem where it's like perfect unicorn candidate that doesn't exist, because usually when you have that perfect unicorn candidate, they already are looking for the next job.
Yep.
So like when you're looking for someone who's already done this job perfectly and well, they're probably looking for a promotion or for another job. So I think that all of those combined has just made this market a mess. Frankly, I don't know how else to say it. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's funny too, because when you say when the managers are taking that long because they feel like, oh, we got 1,000 applicants, we can get through 20, 30, whatever, 10% of it. We got to find the needle in the haystack, because we're the great company and we have the best culture and benefits and et cetera. They're kind of resting on their laurels, but their process internally can be archaic, and I know it's frustrating for recruiters.
Yeah.
I think his name is Joel, who puts out memes or recordings,
Oh,
kind of recruiting. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. I know.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, recruiting jokes. It's just like,
Yeah.
are you serious? Like, I presented you the best, like the top candidate within pay, skills, was a cultural add to the organization. And you're like, I want to see it. One more person is like, oh,
Yeah.
you guys internally need to get your process in order, completely in order. So
Yeah.
when it comes to the how to, because that's what people are gonna, when they hear this episode, they're gonna okay, now I'm about to, okay, I got the why. I understand what's going on. I'm a little clearer now. Okay, it's not me personally. The market has shifted. Everything is dismantled. All right, I need to know how to land a better job, and I'm looking at you, Ann. So
Listen, I'm gonna first say, like, listen, there are all these rules out there, right? And it's going to be so specific to each person. You could get a job in a week, while we're talking about maybe, it could be 6 months, and then you can land one in a week. So I just want to put that little caveat out there. Like, you hear a lot of advice, but there are no hard and fast things like this is the only way to do it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So there's my little disclaimer first. But sure.
Right.
So let's dive in. Let's talk about first, before, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is that they treat the job search like a faucet, and you turn it on when they want it and you turn it off when you don't need it. And that alone right there is what I think is making people very frustrated right now, because they have operated in that turn on, turn off atmosphere, and it worked. But I don't think the turn on, turn off works anymore. So I like to call it like having a steady stream strategy. So you're always job searching, even when you're not really job searching. And what do I mean by that? I mean by upskilling, continuing to look at your, grow your network, talk to new people, be putting your feelers out there. You don't have to be scouring the job boards every day, but it's just all of those things that you do to like propel your thought leadership. Those are things that are going to help you in your career at any time anyway. But by doing so, it preps you and primes you. So when you are ready to pull the trigger to actually go to job search, you need a job, it will have already primed. I don't know, I'm using so many different analogies, but primed that pump so that it takes less time. So that's the first thing I just want to say. Now, I know a lot of people listening are like, that's nice, but I need a job right now. So we'll get into what you can do. But I will say then, just to think about that for the future, like, let's just keep this going consistently and you'll be in a better spot moving forward. So we'll start with that. So the other part that people come to me, and I think the big problem is that when you have this very tight market, when you have a very broad focus, you don't have a focus. It's just everything. You want everything. I could do this. I see these posts all the time on LinkedIn, and I just want to be like, no, just pick one, because unfortunately, when you spread yourself and you're saying, but I can do this, I could do branding and public relations and celebrity relations, and I could do, advertising and customer service, and you throw it all in there. I call it you have a garbage plate brand. And I'm originally from Rochester, New York area, and there's this thing called a garbage plate, which sounds appetizing, I'm sure. But what it is it's a plate just filled with stuff, right? It was designed for like drunk college students at the end of the night, but they put I'm being real with y'all. You put like meat sauce and hamburgers and hot dogs and macaroni salad, and they just like mush it all together, and it looks so gross, but it does the job at the end of the night. So the problem
I'm sorry to jump in, but it's funny because you said it was designed for them. Like the people in the back were like, sorry folks, but this is hilarious. The folks like the chefs or whoever were like, we should get this would be great for some college students. They're drunk, they don't know what they're eating. We don't want to waste this stuff. Let's
That's exactly what I think happened.
Like, this is a design.
It started like in the 70s or something, but
a design meal. Sorry, that was hilarious. Go ahead.
But that's the whole point. When you have a discerning palate, though, that's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And so right now we have a discerning job market, right? Where the employers have the discerning palate. So they're not going to want that jumbled mess of a brand. Correct. That you're putting forth, saying I could do this, 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 and this. And that's actually going to get you burnt out very fast, because that's when you're going to put your resume out to everything and spread yourself so thin and be really upset that it's not working. So that's a really big thing, is to hone in on your focus and figure out what do you really want? What sparks your joy? What are you most skilled at? Where are your strengths? Because those are the things that give you most fulfillment moving forward.
Love it.
So that would be number one. You're still laughing about that garbage plate.
I got the analogy. It was perfect. But when you said it was designed for them. I'm like, wow.
Designed for
there was some intentionality behind that. And hence job seekers intentionally just, not even sometimes knowingly, but develop a garbage plate job search strategy. Yep.
Exactly. So you really got to hone in that professional brand. So when we talk about professional branding and everyone's like, I don't have a brand. What do you mean brand? Or they think like, I'm not an influencer, but the thing is, you are, and you do. Mm-hmm. It's whether or not you're controlling it or somebody else's. So it's it's how people think of you. So is somebody perceiving you the way you want to be perceived? Or are they perceiving just whatever you're putting out there, if you're the garbage plate again? Mm. So that's what we talk about branding. And the things I really like to focus on with my clients are twofold. And of course, they're things that we all do. But resume is a tool. It's not your end all be all, but it's a tool. But that brand better tell you who you are, what you stand for, what you can do, and what you can, even better, what you're bringing to the table. So you have to have that future forward look to it. I think a lot of people just look at their resume and they go a history of backwards and don't really connect the dot to the forward, to the future.
Right. Can you explain that just a little bit as well? Because I've heard it a few times, and I say the same thing. It's like your resume needs to speak more futuristic. And so share with the folks maybe what, in terms of verbiage, what that would look like.
So there's a couple of things. If you were going to have, let's say you were a communications manager and you really want to go for that senior manager position. One simple little tweak you can do is by putting that future title, the title you're going for, up underneath your name at the top of the resume. So you're not lying. You're not saying I'm a senior manager at this place. You're saying I'm a senior manager. So you're stepping into that role, especially if you've done the role and you're ready for the role. You put that on there as your target title. And that's one way that's looking forward instead of backward. What are you laughing? So I need to know what this. Are you still laughing at the garbage plate?
Jehan commented it.
Oh, okay.
You got the comment about what you said.
Oh, did you? Oh, I missed that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the other part, another thing for verbiage, you can also, so say I've had a client who like worked with government she worked for the government. She wanted to work for a very specific type of government contractor. So say in your summary, you're talking about your greatest hits, the things that you've done, right? And at the very end, it's only a few sentences, but you could showcase that you're ready to do, you're looking for, like, say I want to work for aerospace companies now. You can say something like poised to whatever the business value, whatever you're doing, for aerospace companies in, in Virginia or something like that. So do you see how it just translates and showcases where you're going, not just where you've been and what you can do for the next company?
Love it. Yep. Okay. That's good. That's good. So folks, make sure you're taking those notes, because it's the resume is changing. I think we're beyond, but fonts and formatting. Though folks still need support in that as well. But now the verbiage and what you're speaking to is becoming more of the focus. So love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge that I still see is that folks still want to show a laundry list of responsibilities in there and what they do, their tasks, their actions versus the impact. And so I'm always working with my clients to try to draw it to the business impact. So yeah, of course, metrics are important, all of that, but what is it actually doing to the bottom line? Think about the organizational goals, like why someone would hire you. So that's why I always say when we're looking at the resume or cover letter or whatever we're doing, LinkedIn profile, we have to make that brand speak to your future boss. What keeps your future boss up at night? What are they trying to figure out? What problem are they trying to solve? And how are you the best person to do that? Because of your past, right? And then that's where you showcase how you did it before, but you have to have all of that in mind. So that's what I mean by the future forward.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. So when we talk about not just tweaking the resume so it speaks to the future forward, what are some strategies? Because these folks, right? Because job seekers may not have the skill set to change the resume, so they'll need to make that investment. And I always encourage folks, make the investment, because it'll help in a resume writer, or a career coach who can support that. When it comes to something they can handle initially, is that LinkedIn? Is that some type of strategy that you coach your clients on? What does those initial steps look like?
Yeah, sure. So the first we talked about was set clear goals, right? So you're going to have that focus. The second is, you're going to zhuzh up your brand, whether that's by yourself or with a professional. And that brand goes on to LinkedIn too, right? Because LinkedIn, if you want to look at your headline, the headline's the most important part because that's what people see. And if you are just leaving your headline as the title of the company where you work, you are doing yourself a huge disservice because you are branding yourself your company's brand. That's what you've aligned yourself with. So, that's one big thing we look at right away and say, like, how do you change that? So if you think about that and think about, again, using the target title, using some of those keywords, because you want recruiters to find you. And the whole point of redoing your LinkedIn is because it's the world's #1 professional network. And that's where the recruiters go for sourcing and trying to find, and then they have their own LinkedIn special recruiter tool that they use. So that would be something that, yes, we can talk about the LinkedIn. But what I'd say for strategy is then what I say is, remember we talked about kind of like going out to every single application and just applying to anything that possibly looks good. Or I hear this a lot. I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring. I can do that. It's like, okay. But instead, we're going to prioritize quality over quantity. And so the strategy would be to drill deep. And when I say deep, I mean, really trying to think about who are the companies? Maybe you have a list of top 10 companies, top 10 or 20, something to get started, and say, what are the companies that I think align with my values? Again, strengths and interests, because that's I call that the Venn diagram, where when you find that little sweet spot in the middle, that's where you're going to feel fulfilled. So you may not know everything, and obviously your immediate boss is going to come into play, but in general, that there are certain companies that sound like they're aligned with what you believe in. So start with those and then drill deep. So you're going to go into, you're going to do maybe a really deep research on their news. You're going to go into their earnings reports. You're going to start connecting with people on LinkedIn that work there. Engage, but before you connect them, engage with their posts first. So that's something easy, right? You start looking at people who either could be a future hiring manager or are the future hiring or are the hiring manager because you see an open position. And then you're going to look at colleagues, peers, because you never know, because having an internal referral is much more likely to land you the position. So when you do these things, you've already identified the role you want. Now you know the companies you really want to target. And then, you can be looking on the side too for all the things that are coming at you. This is what I mean by a steady stream strategy and going deep. One other thing I like to tell folks to do is to consider thinking about a SWOT analysis. I don't know if you're all familiar with the whole strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. When you do that on a company through the lens of an outsider, and then you can bring these points, right, to the table either in interviews or when you try to do informational interviews, and start to be able to think about, if you focus in on that opportunity, where are the gaps that you can fill, that you can bring something to that table, whether there's a position there right now or not. It's going to show that you've done your homework, and it's going to show that you are truly invested. And again, when they're looking through thousands and thousands of applications, you need to be that person that stands out. And that's one of the ways to do it.
Love it. I think what you said is so important with the SWOT analysis and figuring out the gaps. If job seekers were to dive a bit deeper in, where I see a lot of struggle too, is the questions they'll ask the employer. And I think they seem a bit of, I'm not going to blanket all job seekers, right? Some are just super confident. They know what to ask and how to control that conversation, really take it off the interrogation path and make it more of a conversation, is asking those questions other than, they see the job description, they know what they're technically looking for, but asking the hiring manager, maybe not the recruiter, but to say, okay, what are some initial gaps, or what are some gaps that you need really, fill with this position when it comes to certain projects that are, on the table.
Sure.
And then let them, open up as much as possible. I think that'll give the job seeker the ability to kind of mull through their skill sets and be like, okay, yep, and highlight some more, and then close, what I like to say, build the bridge from your talent to what they're looking for, and how do you close the bridge. But like you said, is diving deeper in exposing, doing the necessary analysis, so you're prepared, not only just because they're going to fire off questions at you, you got to be prepared to ask strategic questions to them to make them think wow, I like the way Ann is thinking. She's thinking long term. She's already kind of invested in the projects we just talked about. She's already thinking about solutions. And so I think employers love to understand a methodology of the job seeker as well.
Yeah, that's so poignant. I think when you go through, and when I'm talking about all this doesn't mean you can do this all online or you can do it all in a day. Some of it's going to have a back and forth conversations, like you said, like talking to someone. It could be in a formal interview or in the informational interviews. It can be some of it online, right? Like that you can do, but that's where you can then formulate the ideas to fill the gap. It doesn't mean you have to come out with a 10-page marketing plan or whatever it is. But something that shows how you approach the situation from a learning standpoint, and then approach it from a implementation, okay, the strategy, what you would say to put forth. And having those conversations before you're even in the interview lands you the interview a lot quicker because then they're like, ooh, I like the way this person thinks. And that's where, again, back to that steady stream instead of the faucet. If you have these ongoing, it's going to help you in the long run by shortening that time to hire.
Love it. Let me ask you this, because I love to hear what coaches are saying based on the client base, because you get the pulse of what's actively happening now. So what are you hearing commonality in the clients that you work with that may have some struggles or pain points when it comes to their job search efforts?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the commonality really is they're just doing kind of like the old thing about like, look, I'm just trying to get my resume out there. People aren't responding back. So that's the struggle. And then that turns into the burnout, because when you're like, I'm just putting all this effort in and getting nothing in return. So instead of kind of doing that scattershot approach, that's why we say hone in, go deeper, take the time. So like when I say engaging with companies on LinkedIn, here's something quick you can do right now. If you have your companies that you know that you are interested in, you can go over to their LinkedIn page and you can scroll down. And it's either in the about section or sometimes it's right on that front page. You got to scroll to find it. And it says, I'm interested. You can click that I'm interested button and it will alert the recruiters just internally at that company. No one else will see it. So it's still private if you have a job. And that's one small little action that you can take that already tells folks that, hey, I'm here. And then when an opening does happen, your resume is going to sift up to the higher position in there when they're looking, right, to the top of the pile. The other thing is to start interacting with those pages. I know people don't really go into LinkedIn pages much, but there's a reason they're there. And if you start liking those things, commenting on them, you're visible. And you're becoming visible. And that's exactly what you need to do. So those little tiny things make a difference.
I'm so glad you said that, Ann, because it's something that I try to communicate as much as possible. The job seeker seems to not leverage LinkedIn to its fullest. I think, like you said, they're not understanding the power behind this platform. And what they can do to enhance. And to your point too, it's the one tool method where they're just applying versus building the brand, being more visible, being active, sharing posts, comments, things like that. So it does turn into another job, and they're probably like, I don't want to do all that work. Well, this is the market we're in. This is what it takes, unless you're this amazing, incredible rock star where your work just floods the market and they know who you are. It's not like TV, right? So you have to put in the additional legwork, pull different triggers and levers to make yourself rise to the top. So I'm so glad you said hey, because I love telling folks, get on the company page and engage as much as possible so they'll see your visibility. I call it the VCO. Visibility creates opportunity. The more visible you are, the more opportunities that will come your way, both in corporate and maybe something separate depending on how you brand yourself. But
exactly.
Great point.
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the whole steady stream again. If you're doing this at any time, even if you're not actively job searching, becoming more visible, it's going to help you in so many different ways. First, from potential opportunities at those companies, but beyond that, when you start leveraging LinkedIn and really posting your own thought leadership posts or writing your own articles, or if you need to take baby steps first, commenting on other thought leaders, but making really thoughtful comments, those are the things that indicate that you're an expert in your field, that you have something to say. And, companies themselves, when they see, people watch, right? They see what's happening on LinkedIn, and you might be like, oh, I don't want to be too visible because people might think I'm job searching. Maybe, but maybe that's not a bad thing, because that can also help you increase your visibility in your current company for promotions or for other opportunities, speaking opportunities. There's so many different things that could come your way that aren't just necessarily the immediate job.
Yep. So you know what? Let's pivot a bit because share maybe one or two things that you benefited from by becoming more visible and sharing, content on the platform.
Yeah, that's a good one. So it's interesting, right? Like as an entrepreneur, my goal is a little bit different. You want to attract clients, but it's the same concept.
Yep.
So I would say the biggest difference for me, and I've been on LinkedIn since I think it was 2005. If you go back up and look, I've used it since
Wow.
it was basically a glorified job board, right? But I didn't really start posting until maybe 2020, right around the pandemic time. And that's when I started really using it and more as a social media tool and a thought leadership platform. The difference is instead of having to always go out and seek clients, people come to me, and like that's at first it was like, that's so cool. But that's what I'm talking about for the job search too. It's like, wow, people will see you, even if you don't think it. Even if you're like, whoa, I only got 98 views on that post. 98 people can fill a room. So
Yep.
you just have to remember that those are real eyeballs. They're not just fake, inflated stats. So yeah, I would say, client base for sure has been a world of difference. I've got invited. I mean, look at us. You invited me to come onto your podcast because you saw I had something to say. So that's what, having those points of view. My husband, he got invited to be an adjunct professor in his field because of the way he's always, networking and active, but LinkedIn played a role in that too. So, like you can have these like side jobs too. There's lots of different opportunities. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't say I've met some of my favorite people on LinkedIn, just from a relationship standpoint. Oh, I just have some wonderful friends that some of them I've never even met in person, actually a lot of them, but they are, that supportive network who can cheer each other on. So whether it's like, celebrate the highs, but then help lift you up on the lows. So, that's one of those things that is irreplaceable. And I'm not trying to sound like I work for LinkedIn, but seriously, LinkedIn is
like
a
revenue stream for us.
But that's that one platform that I feel that in. I really don't feel that same way on Instagram or in other areas. So,
right. And the reason I ask that is because I do want job seekers to think more as a business person, right? Think more entrepreneurial in their job search and not just because, like you said, it affords you the opportunity to do some things outside the 9 to 5. And again, if that's not your, if that's not your gig, that's cool. But most people now, I can't even, put a number on it, don't know, but you see a lot of people that are trying to build multiple, streams of income, which is needed in today's market, right? And just overall economy is crazy. And so this is the platform to make that happen for you because I won't even run through the numbers, but it's crazy. If you think about the global platform, who you can reach, you can speak to someone in China, Germany, Russia, wherever you want to do, California, in a matter of seconds. Like the reaches and the opportunities are endless on the platform if you leverage it, even as a corporate person. So I think the lack of use by job seekers is the biggest miss right now in their job search efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, it's about connection, but it's also about just sharing your thoughts too. Like there's so much you can do. And so very little. I mean, like they're changing all the time too. They're constantly adding new features and new things, like new ways to connect. Like we can play games now and things like that. So it's just it's fun. And I think you're right that is one of the most underutilized tools. And it's a secret. It's like a secret weapon because like if you start doing this, it'll help your career one way or the other. Even if it, like I said, beyond the job search, it will help your career.
Absolutely. So let's give them a few more nuggets.
Sure.
Like let me ask you this because we talked about it before we came on. Through your program or your coaching, as you coach, what would ideally? Because you said something earlier where it's like, hey, it could happen in a week. It can happen in 6 months. It varies based on that. What are you sharing with clients to say, hey, once you work with me, ideally understanding your skill set, your level, your expectations, what are you seeing in the market is the average kind of lead time? I know you said something around 45 days, but what are you seeing from that
Oh,
standpoint?
that's just that's the technical like thing, but I think it's actually much longer with the type of
Yeah.
clients, like I said, that I work with. You know, it's not unreasonable to think it could be 6 months to 12 months if you're in that kind of director or up position.
Yeah.
However, you know, doing these things that I'm talking about, if you actually activate these tools and you're consistent with them and you create a schedule and you work towards them, that is going to drastically reduce it, right? Like, so I've had clients who within 30 days they got land the job. It depends. It's also going to depend on the type of job too, and the type and the company, because some companies require, you know, they're requiring a lot more now. So like some require 6 to 8 interviews, which is just mind-boggling to me. But if that's the case, you're not going to get it done in 30 days because of simple scheduling, even, you know. So it's really going to depend. But these, and honestly, I tell folks, you know, to really think. That's why we go deep. We don't go broad, because if you try to spend all that time with just any company to throw your hat in the ring, and it's not something you really like or feel aligned with, you're going to burn out. Yeah. But that last little nugget I'll give you is to create a job search schedule. And the job search schedule doesn't have to be the, you know, I'm looking at the boards, because we just talked about a lot of different strategies that had nothing to do with the job boards themselves. And they take time, you know, the posting, the commenting, the research, the looking for opportunities, the informational interviews, all of those take time. So depending on your situation, you know, you might be in a full-time job, you might have 2 jobs, you know, whatever it is, you need to do what works for you, and you need to be consistent. So having that schedule, putting it in your calendar, even if it's 15 minutes a day to do just a little something, that's going to make a big difference.
I think, you know what, that sounds like an ebook you should put out. Yeah.
Okay. You can help me write it.
Absolutely. It's funny because I always do that every episode. I'm like, you should do that, or turn that into a t-shirt, a book, or a podcast, something. And here's how here's how it hits with me is that you're through all the advice you just gave. It's okay. Mondays is going to be network day. So for 30 minutes, I'm going to network with folks through should I say Monday is, I'm going to search my top 10 to 12, 15 core companies and do a little networking in who are the key players. Take a break, you know, whether it be Tuesday at this time or Wednesday the next day, is to reach out to these folks that I've researched, make a coffee chat connection, see what I can do. Tuesday, you're working on your resume, you're tweaking that, whatever. If you have a coach, great too. You know, so it's built out that way. So they're like, okay, I can tweak it how I want it, but I have a specific time and goal that I need to accomplish. So I'm not getting burnt out. That's the key. And what the strategies were, what you're sharing is that folks don't miss that. Don't be like, okay, I got all these great things, and you're rushing in, and there's no intentionality. And you're still going wide. It's like, Ann never said to go wide. She said to go deep. And so that takes time, and putting it in a structured form, because what happens is when folks leave a structured environment, and if they're out of work for a while, they become unstructured. So putting them back into a structured, you know, set, like, okay, I'm going to take time for me, my health, mental health, etc. I'm saying all that just to say it sounds like a great ebook that can be put out for folks.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of my, you know, my Advanced Job Search Academy. I give a checklist, so you have the things. I also provide, you know, SMART goal framework if you're into that, so that you come away with a 90-day action plan. Everybody has different things that work for them. Some people wake up in the morning and they eat the frog. You know, there's all these different techniques. I don't know if you know that one.
Never heard of that. I'm just like, okay.
That's what, that one you're supposed to do like the hardest thing first. You got to eat the frog. And So anyway, everyone has different techniques that work for them. And that's why I say, try not to put things in a box saying like, this is the only way to do it. But if you can make it consistent and intentional, like you said, and know that these are some of the steps, then it feels so satisfying to be able to go check, check, check. And then you can focus on the process more than the outcome. And that's when you feel more like you've made, you're productive. You feel like you've done something, and you have, because the process will lead to the outcome.
Yeah, I love that. Focus more on the process and not the outcome. I think
Yeah.
that helps lower the stress and the burnout for sure. Yep, that's super cool. So before we go, you mentioned your program. Share a little bit more, and I'm sure the advice you gave is coming from that. But give us
Sure.
the overview of what people can expect when they add you to their coaching team, as you know, and work with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love talking. If you're interested at all, please just book us. Go ahead and book a little free consult with me. It's on my LinkedIn profile. I have 3 different programs. The one that I just talked about was the Advanced Job Search Academy, which goes through in detail. I have one-on-one, and then I will be opening up a new cohort. It's in a while, but I do it in October. It's for groups. And we go through all this is a 6-week process, but we do the same thing with a one-on-one as well, where we go through every single one. We walk through the resume, then we walk through your LinkedIn profile power up. Then we do a little thing on posting and content creation. Then we go into advanced job search strategies, talking about some of these little tips and tricks and some more. And then interview power prep. So we are preparing you from soup to nuts. And even before that, if you're not clear, because remember I said the very first thing, you got to be clear and know exactly what you want next. I have another program for that to help you get there. And that's my career clarity boost, so that we walk through all the steps to help you find out those strengths, values, interests. What are your opportunities? What can you do? What you want to do, and really nail it down so you're confident. You know what you want next.
Love it. And definitely, I appreciate you so much. But before we go, I have 2 more questions. One is share with the folks where they can connect, consume your content, get in touch with you, etc.
Awesome. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love meeting new people. My LinkedIn is my name, which is listed down here, ANNEGENDUSO. And that's where you'll find me most days, because as you know, it's a great platform because I sound like I work there. So.
And so the final question would be, what makes you get up and do what you do?
Oh man, that's a great question. I love seeing people really shine, right? I love seeing them step back into that confidence when they realize how amazing they are. Because, usually when people are ready for a job search, whether they've been job searching for 6 months or whether they're just about to do it, sometimes they feel like they've been beaten down, right? They're like, oh, I just don't feel recognized. I feel underpaid, overlooked, overworked. So I love helping them see how amazing they are. And when they land that job, or when they get that promotion, or what they get, just even start like pursuing a different path, they believe in themselves and they can see that too. So that's what gets me up, is being able to help people do that.
Love it. And again, appreciate you so much for saying yes.
Thank you.
Dropping all the Jews. It was like you were in my head, because I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I tell folks. And so good to be in good company. Love the content that you put out for sure. And I always want to make sure that folks know, like yourself, you can come back, continue to share some amazing advice, for folks, their career and their life, because I think that's what it's all about. How do we help? How do we put people back to work? How do we support them, educate them in this market? So appreciative again of your time and expertise.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, actually, I lied. There's one last question.
Oh.
Any final encouraging words for folks about their job search?
Absolutely. Listen, it's not about if you'll get another job, it's when, and you will, right? So that's all I want to say, is it can feel like really tough, really hard right now, but keep going, because you will get one.
Awesome. Love it. Appreciate everybody. We'll catch you next time on the Career Talks podcast.